But I think what I want everybody to hear is, tons of experience. You've done a lot of things in the mortgage business. You completely got out for a little while. You decided to go full head in 2016. And here we sit today, and you're doing somewhere north of 30 million in production. So a lot of people are going to want to know
what your secret is.
What did you do?
Count your successes by the number of your activities. Do not count your successes by your paycheck.
Yeah.
Because the minute that I started doing that was the minute that I started to really turn a corner. In about 1999, I said, hey, this isn't going to sound great, but if these clowns can have mortgage companies,
so can I.
I can do this.
I was like, okay.
All right, so welcome to another episode of the Contacts to Contracts podcast. Here with us while on vacation.
Thank you very much.
Mr. John Jones. Dude, thanks for joining us.
Yeah, man, glad to be here.
And
in light of what I just told you
Yes.
earlier, yeah, I'm definitely happy to be here today. And if my wife, Christina, if you're watching, hopefully we're speaking at this time. Just a side note
they're
that we are
going
in the
through
middle
some remodel, yeah.
a major master bath remodel, and it's we just had an episode this morning about 2 hours ago, and I think I get up and left. So we were, consulting tile choices, colors, and we were just complete opposites. It was like shag carpet in the shower or shiny gloss tile.
Oh wow, that's far apart. That's far apart.
Yeah,
so let's
close.
welcome real quick. We have the amazing Peggy Bradshaw.
Thank you, Brian. You're crazy.
I'm not crazy. I love you, Pegs.
I love you too, Brian.
You're one of my favorite people.
Well, thank you.
Don't tell John I
Same
said
here.
that.
I won't. John, when you said you were in the middle of a remodel, I thought you were saying you were going to, I didn't want to say it, but I thought you were in the middle of a divorce.
No, it could lead to, hopefully it doesn't lead to
I got
that.
a little scared. I was like, why is he bringing this up in front of me? I felt a little uncomfortable.
House for sale, almost finished.
With one big piece of tile.
You pick your tile. Because the master bath is completely gutted. There's nothing in there.
Ooh,
So
not fun,
if we
no.
sell it now, it's going to be
Fun. Peggy, we're about to have some fun.
Oh, I'm excited.
Okay, so here's the deal. First, I got to say, our producers, they came to John and I, and they're like, who you really have to have on the podcast? I was like, who? You guys got a great idea? Peggy Bradshaw. And I said, that's a phenomenal idea.
I love you guys.
That's a phenomenal idea.
Don't tell my husband. He already thinks I'm already full of myself. So I don't need more.
So let me.
I do love your producers, by the way.
Yeah, they do a great job. They
they're
do a great job
amazing.
for you too. So let me set it up a little bit. So Peggy, how long have you been in the mortgage business? Like all inclusive, everything. Like, didn't you start in like Hawaii or something?
In Boston, technically, at the Boston 5 Savings Bank. Boston 5 Cent Savings Bank.
nice.
Have you ever heard of it, John Jones?
I have. I grew up there. So I started with GMAC in Portsmouth, New Hampshire.
Oh, wow.
And was originating in the Boston area for my beginning career back in the 1800s. I don't know when. A long time ago.
Well, the Buffalo Nickel was the mascot of the Boston 5 Cent Savings Bank. So I was a person who prepared documents, truth in lending disclosures.
Okay.
And that was in 1986. So I was about 20 years old. And I'm now, a lot older.
Well,
Look, I feel like Brian's doing some quick
give
math.
it away.
Yeah, Brian's
We weren't going to get into that, Peggy.
Okay. I was in the dinosaur age. Well,
1800s over here.
Yeah. So, I'm a little older than you, John, but that's all right. We'll just take
So
it.
at
not
some
by
point-
my math on that one. So I think maybe by a year. So
We're probably about around the same age, yeah.
So at some point you go out west,
Right. Go to California.
and when did you actually start originating?
When I went to Hawaii,
Okay.
and I lived in Hawaii, and there was a job opening, and I was 22 at that time because there was a lot going on in my personal life then, and I was moving all over the place, and went to Hawaii, and they had a job opening first as a processor, and about 2 months in, they realized I was not made for processing.
Yeah, no kidding.
So my manager said, hey, we've got a great idea. We think you'd be great in sales. Would you consider being a loan officer for the bank? And I said, I'll give it a shot. And before you know it, I was originating, mortgages. And in banks. I was going around to different branches, and I'd have appointments with people, and it was just a great time. So I did that for about 2 years over there.
Okay.
And then I moved to Arizona, did that for like 5 years. And that was that's where I kind of really cut my teeth in government lending and did a lot of VA loans, FHA, all that. And I did mostly, government loans then. And then, moved back to Florida and where I'm from, and had a really great opportunity there to originate mortgages. We didn't have to have licenses then. I worked for several different mortgage companies. In about 1999, I said, hey, this isn't going to sound great, but if these clowns can have mortgage companies,
so can I.
I can do this.
I was like, okay.
Put on the red nose.
Exactly. They are not more organized than me, and I'm highly disorganized. They're not more personable than me because I'm very personable. And I don't know. I just thought, I can do this. And all I needed to do was really surround myself with the right people.
Yeah.
Because I'm not an accountant. I'm not highly organized. So I did. I found people who were so supportive of me. And some of you are watching this. You're out there. You were a big help to me.
Yep.
Special thanks. Absolutely. Mindy Thorne. She was one of my first hires. Adina McGuire. Those are two ladies that really helped me out a lot in the operations area, and I'll never forget them. And my mortgage company was called AmeriFinancial, and it was on West Bay, and it was at 510 West Bay. Mm-hmm. And I was there for about 5 years, and then I sold the business to Joe, who's probably watching. Joe's still in the mortgage business, I think. And then I went into wholesale mortgage.
Okay.
And that was with Freedom Mortgage, which at that time was Erwin Mortgage.
Okay, so you were an account executive with a wholesaler for a number of years.
13 years. That was the longest job I've ever had.
Wow.
Yeah, 13 years was a long time.
Wow. And then you had a life event. You don't have to go into that, but you got out of the business. My toe was always in the water, Brian. Mm-hmm. I always had my toe in the water. But I think, I never really got out. But I had this big life event that really forced me to go back in full time into mortgage. And I thought, I want to get back into origination. I think that was what I loved the most. That was really what I loved the most.
The people, yeah.
Yeah.
So that was about 2016.
Correct.
I think you and I met somewhere around 2017.
Yes.
But I think what I want everybody to hear is, tons of experience. You've done a lot of things in the mortgage business. You completely got out for a little while. You decided to go full head in 2016. And here we sit today, and you're doing somewhere north of 30 million in production. So a lot of people are going to want to know.
What your secret is.
What did you do?
Well,
because I'm assuming in 16, brand new, essentially back in the business, knowing how to do a mortgage, but no relationships.
Zero relationships because I came from the wholesale world. Yeah. So like I said, I had to dip my toe. The first thing is, again, thanks I have to give out. And the thanks is to my hometown of Tarpon Springs, Florida, and relatives and sphere of influence and people that I knew. Those were the first people that I reached out to and told everybody, here I was back in the mortgage business, and now I could service them directly. I could do the refinances, I could do the purchases. I went to realtors that I knew. So those were the very first people that I reached out to. And again, I want to thank the people that did help me in the very beginning. I'm trying to think of, Bud DeLee helped me out, Pete Messer Basilis, let's see, my cousin Christy Mijas, she told everybody in the whole wide world about me. All my cousins came to me for refinances, but Christy's like my, I would call her like my personal broker to the Tarpon connection. Yeah. She tells everybody about me, and
raving fan.
She's my number. Well, I'd like to hire her one day, but I don't think I can get her to come to work for us. But that's another story. But Christy, and then the realtors that I met, and trying to think, Maria Samarkis, who's Clanaris, she helped me out a lot, and Astiroa Salikis. I'm just throwing names out there of people. Yeah. These are people I grew up with that gave me a shot when nobody else would. So Faye Maracus, Faye, sorry, Faye, I forgot you. How could I forget Faye? She's like my longest standing customer.
So you started off with sphere of influence, is what I'm hearing then.
Right.
So hey, I'm back in the business.
Right.
I can help you out. You started with the sphere of influence.
Right.
And I would imagine.
So let's pause there for a second, because we talk about this a lot on our podcast. Is we have new LOs in the business, and where are they going to get their start?
Yep.
So I mean, I think that is amazing. I mean, we always try to tell people. I mean, everybody that you know, grew up with, friends, family, neighbors, you've got to let them know what you're doing for work. Similar to an insurance salesman, right? That's the first target, right? You go after your family and friends. And in the mortgage business, sometimes we don't always do that.
Yeah.
We jump in and we shift and try to go out and meet and establish relationships with realtors that we've never met.
Right.
When we're missing, I'm assuming the first year or two, I know it was for me, the lion's share of my referrals came from that source.
Friends and family.
Until I could get established in the real estate community.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I think that's the message is, if you're a new LO out there or getting in this business or in the business, always circle back and still go after that segment of the business.
Listen, I can remember when I first got into the mortgage business, the sales manager, very first sales manager I had, before they would even let you start. So like, hey, we're going to hire you, but before you start, we need a database of 100 people in your sphere of influence. And it had to be names, numbers, and addresses. Mm-hmm. And the point was, when you started, you realized, like, hey, that's where we went to first.
Right.
Yeah.
So
I think it's funny because a lot of people do hesitate. I think they're concerned, like, well, what if, my husband, I told him in the beginning that those were the first people and he said, you never do business with family. And I'm like, I always do business with family because, number one, nobody cares about them as much as I do.
Yep.
No one. And I really do care about them. And it wasn't like a commission for me. It was doing a good job for them. Mm-hmm. And I know that they know that because, I would do whatever it took to get them done and do the extra things for them and give them the extra, instructions that no one else is going to do for them. Mm-hmm. So, but I think that family, if you're genuine and you care and you're good at your craft, why not share that with your family?
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, I don't, and I think they want to see you do well. I think they're proud of you when you do well. So I don't see that. I would definitely not ever hesitate to work with family. If you're hesitating to work with family, there's something not right. Something's wrong. You might not know your job well enough.
You may have a cousin that you don't want to work with.
Exactly. In my case, all cousins.
No, but I mean, the point is,
Right.
even if you've been in the business 10, 20 years, we still sometimes we're shifted in the wrong direction, or we don't have both directions open. Yeah. So it's important that you still target your friends and family.
For sure.
I mean, there's good referrals, and you're saving them money, giving them great value, great opportunities.
Yes.
Oh yeah,
that's a huge point. That's a nice job. So what was next?
Oh, well then, I had an opportunity to work with a real estate company in South Tampa, and I was living in South Tampa at the time. Yeah, and I went to work for this company, and they would allow me access to the office, and I was in the office pretty much almost every day, and I just made them my friends. And I came from what they call a place of contribution.
Okay.
So a lot of the things I learned were, this real estate company happens to be one of the Keller Williams franchises, and it's in South Tampa. And the lady that was running the office was Samantha Hatton at the time, very nice woman who introduced me to everybody and, gave me my first foot in the door. After Samantha, there was a great guy named Stephen Bush who worked there, who I was very close with as well. Now to Lennon Rarick, who's in there now. So all these people that were the head of the team were people that I became friends with first, and then it kind of trickled down what they would introduce me to their people. And from then on, I made a lot of new friends, and then after a lot of patience and, none of this vomiting, I would every once in a while, I would just really, I'd have a meltdown. Like, okay, how many lunch dates do I have to take you out before you give me a deal? After a while it would get a little bit crazy, but you know what I'm saying?
Yes.
After a while, it just naturally happened. Where they just, well, she's here, and you always want to tell them using the football, what's the word, analogy, that you want to be the backup quarterback.
Yep.
So I want to be your backup.
Put me in, coach.
Yeah, put me in. And you remember who was the most famous backup quarterback when Drew got hurt?
TB12.
TB12. Yeah, baby. Love you, Tom.
Thanks for coming to Tampa.
I was the first woman to say Mrs. Tom Brady on my Facebook page. I'm sorry. Let me go back. Sorry. Oh, yeah.
That's okay. My youngest son's named Brady, so thank you again, Tom Brady.
Yeah. But I don't want to tell the truth. Is when I used to hate him when he was with the Patriots.
Oh, I didn't
so
like
jealous.
him until March 2020.
Yeah, me too.
I loved him when he was with the
I know.
Patriots. I love him in Tampa.
I'm such a fair weather fan. I can't lie. But they're like, oh, Tom Brady's coming up. I'm like, are you kidding? Anyway, we're not going to talk about that. Yeah.
So what I'm hearing you say, you the good news is you got an opportunity that kind of got you past the gatekeeper.
Yeah.
But from there, you still had to build relationships.
Oh, yeah.
Lots of work, yep.
Oh, yeah. I remember even sometimes, having my little meltdowns and talking to the people who were running the office saying, why doesn't so-and-so talk to me? And they would say, hey, it's up to you. You have to earn that. No one's going to just give that to you.
Yeah.
So I had to learn, again, patience, patience, patience. And one of the people, and I'm not just saying this, who really kept me straight was Bryan. Because Bryan was my manager for a while.
It's a hard job.
How many hours did you have to spend on the phone with me, Bryan? I know. I'm like, Bryan, it's Peggy. I just have to talk to you. Just a few minutes.
I think, so earlier on in my originating career, I did work in a real estate office, and it's very frustrating, right? You become super friendly with a lot of the agents, and there's a handful that, for whatever reason, they've had established relationships, and when you're not getting, an opportunity with them, you kind of like, you get a little frustrated. I mean, you've gone to lunch 6, 7, 8 times. You go into happy hours. You're like, all right, give me a shot.
Yeah, happy hours galore. I was doing a lot of happy hours.
So you're in the friend zone, and it's like, when is my chance?
Right.
But the good point is that you keep going after them.
I have to say this. Bryan Lovell was my manager for a while. He fired me, I think. Well, fired
3 times.
Yeah. Well, all of a sudden one day I realized he wasn't my manager. I'm like, what? He got rid of me? Why? Okay, so anyway, Bryan said, and I'll never forget this, count your successes by the number of your activities.
Yep.
Count your successes by the number of your activities. Do not count your successes by your paycheck.
Yeah.
And I was like, but I got bills to pay. But he was right. Because the minute that I started doing that was the minute that I started to really turn a corner. Mm-hmm. And I think that I started to turn the corner in 2019 is when I really, and I even called Laura Lynn once and I said, Laura Lynn, no, I really mean it. This is going to be the new normal. I will be producing now from now on a very good number. And I think the first year I made the Circle of Excellence, and then the following year President's Club, and now President's Club again. Yeah.
One of the things it's so funny about Peggy is I'd call her at like the end of the day, just driving home from work or whatever, to see how she's doing, and she would tell me about these like lunch meetings and stuff that she was doing where she went into the day, didn't have a lunch appointment, but she would just start walking around the office and be like, hey, you want to go to lunch?
Yeah, and it wasn't like, it wasn't obnoxious. I would just say, hey,
but you were like, hey, I'm going to take a break and I'm going to take somebody with me.
Yeah.
And I was like, man, I mean, that's pretty awesome.
Yeah.
To go about that. And, you didn't always do it on purpose, but you, at the end, you
made a friend.
Made a friend and you got it done.
Yeah.
What some of the other things, I know you've shared with us before too, like you do a lot of like educational type events or and you've gotten real creative where it's not like, hey, I'm going to do Mortgage 101, but like you get like, you've had the mayor.
Yes. Well, no, I had her, and then COVID came.
Oh, COVID hit.
Yeah, but I've had some other people, and I'll tell you about that. It was great, and I'll throw some other names out too. I don't mean to name drop, but people help.
Yes.
We're they say we're a village. I mean, success doesn't happen by yourself.
Yeah.
And it's funny when you realize people who have done something for the community, and you probably all have someone that like that, but you didn't realize it, and they'd be more than happy to help you or share their experience. So. Well, I started realizing from going to a lot of our events at the Fly-In where you would really take your time to find good speakers to keep our attention. I realized that. I mean, we were tired. We were going hours and hours, and you'd bring these speakers, in to motivate us, teach us. And I thought, what? I have to imitate that. If I imitate that, then people will realize I care enough about them to bring them this information that's going to help them not only with their business, but with their personal life as well.
Yeah.
So I some of the things I'll do is I'll bring guest people to do, like I've had Deanna from the mortgage MI company. Yep. I've had Don Henshaw from the mortgage insurance company speak. I've had Michael White, who's a fantastic appraiser, come in and do an appraisal.
That draws a crowd. Yeah.
Oh, are you kidding? That conference room was packed.
And you've done non-mortgage related stuff too.
Yeah.
And the point is like you're looking for a way, you're trying to add value to these folks,
add value. So the people that I brought in, the two people that I'm thinking about the most, I just brought in Rick Peckham, who just was honored by the NHL. He was inducted to the Hall of Fame.
Yep, broadcaster.
Yeah, as a broadcaster, he was a 23-year veteran with the Lightning, and he's been broadcasting for I think 40
years. I think
something like
it's been
that.
Forever. Yep.
Yeah, and so Rick came last month in October, and we did a top producers lunch. And he was our guest speaker, and he talked about the business aspect of the Lightning with Phil Esposito and things that happened years and years before, and what it took to bring the Lightning to Tampa. And it was, he had us all on the edges of our seat, because he was telling us about a different aspect of the Lightning that nobody knew about, and how we built a championship team.
I don't remember getting an invite for that.
Well,
I'd
Bryan,
have loved to go to that, being a hockey fan.
I'm sorry. I did tell you I was doing it. I put in a ticket.
Good old Phil Esposito, number 7, Boston Bruins. What people don't realize, he's still the 5th leading scorer in NHL history.
That's crazy.
Wow.
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah. Rick, you didn't mention that. So when he came, I actually, and he's a good friend of ours. He golfs with my husband.
Okay.
His wife, I met her at church. She ran the Sunday school, and I worked for Sunday school, and we just became really good friends. So then we started going out to dinner and stuff, and then I was like, Rick, would you ever consider speaking? And he was so happy to do it.
Great speaker.
He was amazing. And it was just so happened it was the week before he was flying out to Vancouver, forgive me, for the induction of the award that he had received. Wow. It was a broadcasting award.
Yep.
That is awesome.
Yeah. And then prior to that, so there's a great pizza place called Bavaro's. Mm-hmm. And one of our Tampa's best, one of the brightest shining stars in small business in Tampa is a man named Dan Bavaro and his wife Anna Maria Bavaro. Great people, and he talked about his story growing up in New York and New Jersey, and how he got into business and what he learned. And long story made short, Dan did not finish high school, but his education far exceeds any education of most people I know.
Wow.
And he talked about that and talked about what it took. And again, everyone was on the edge of their seat. So bringing those people to talk to my group, those are things that people still remember. Dan Bavaro was 2.5 years ago.
Well, the thing I love about that is that, not all of it was mortgage related.
No,
right? And the point
no.
is you're trying to find ways to add value to these people that you value and also want to earn business from.
Right.
John, you and I have spent a lot of time talking over the last 6 weeks about what are some of the changes we think we'll see in the 2022 market. And by that, the world's changed because of COVID.
Yes.
And our mindset has been 2022 needs to be the year of you hosting your own events.
Right.
Right. And because we're seeing cases where real estate offices don't have as many agents coming into the office as they used to. They're working in a remote environment. We're going to, affiliate stuff where we would normally go to meet new referral partners, and less of them are showing up, but more affiliates are coming. Mm-hmm. So you could have twice as many affiliates, and not all mortgage, but some of it may be title, some of it, homeowners interest, whatever it is. But it's getting convoluted, and so we feel the answer to that is to put on your own events. And here we are, we're hearing Peggy share with us over the last couple of years, she's already been doing that, and the success that she's having makes us sound really smart.
Yeah, it was well thought out, pre-COVID and everything.
Well, I appreciate you saying that, Bryan, but I tell you, it doesn't take a lot when you just realize all you have to do is duplicate what you see others doing. Mm-hmm. And I think, they say the greatest compliment is the greatest form of flattery is imitation, right? Mm-hmm. So whenever I hear a great speaker talk, I try to take one thing out of that speech and integrate it into my business. And even if it's just one item, that's a lot, because these people come, I mean, they're prepared. They've got stuff to offer you. You know, the most you could do, the nicest thing you could do to compliment them is to take that and integrate it into your business. And I think that that's what's been the key to my growing.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to say success, because I don't feel like I've reached any pinnacle of success by any means, but I want to continue to grow and grow and grow.
Let's stop you there then. So that goes back to 2019, and you were Peggy Bradshaw. Now, what does your team look like today, 3 years later? And what direction, as you want to grow, like what team members do you have now, and where do you vision yourself going?
Well, I still really want to grow my team. And so I started out with by myself for I think a year and a half, and then I had a year about, and then I had a guy come, and he was great. Chance Unger worked for me for a while. We were a great team, and then he decided to go off on his own, so he became an originator, which was great. I'm really happy that he had to start with me. I hope I did something good for him. I hope I taught him well.
You did. He's been successful, so good for you.
And then Dylan Dungaleggy came, and he's a great guy, and he was kind of like a son to me almost, because he's the same age as my son. And then I thought, geez, well, if this guy who's like my son did so good, why don't I just hire my real son and see if he wants to come? So Nick Petitas joined me. Shortly thereafter, Dylan decided to go off on his own. So I have Nicholas now, and I'm looking to hire one more person who has about a year or two experience.
So the first hire you made wasn't a loan officer, though.
He was a transaction coordinator. And I have a great transaction coordinator now, Warren Bennett. Fantastic. He's wonderful. Yep. Yeah.
So you started with that, we'll call it operations leverage.
Right.
And was it easy?
No, it wasn't easy. Because you have to make sure that the person that you're hiring as a transaction coordinator wants to be a transaction coordinator. So unfortunately, we as salespeople, we're like peacocks. We've got these big feathers, and we want to show them to the whole wide world. And let's face it, we don't like to share the spotlight so much. And that transaction coordinator has to be someone who's the ultimate in humility, and they want to, they want to support you. They don't care about all that stuff, Yep. And so that's why I've got a great relationship with Warren Bennett now, because he doesn't want it. Although he'd be a fantastic salesman, and he's great.
Want it. Yeah.
Doesn't want it. He just wants to support the team, and he doesn't care about all the glory and all that good stuff. And that's what makes him a phenomenal human being. And I do try to give him thanks all the time. But the person that I hired the first time was a salesperson. He was a mortgage person. He did not want to be a production type person. So that caused.
But I will say, in that instance, that led that person down the path. Like, they wouldn't have been able to have success as a loan originator without starting
with you.
Well, because you got an opportunity on the back side of the business, on the operations side of the business, to learn it.
Right.
And then once you get some mastery on that side, it becomes a little bit easier to go out and also find the deals, right? Yeah. We see all the time, the hardest thing about being a rookie is you're learning how to do loans while you're learning to find them at the same time.
Right.
And in this role, and we've had a lot of people who've had success coming in, we've seen it throughout the industry, as transaction coordinators learn the business. I mean, you did the same thing. You started off doing TILAs and, and eventually you learn the business and you say, hey, you know what, I can go do this on my own. But, what I wanted people to hear was, like, you had some struggles at the beginning of building the team.
Sure.
Right. And
sure. I had to come to Jesus. I had to, look at myself inward and say, Peggy, you are too much of a peacock. You need to take a lot of steps back. You need to realize that this isn't all about you. This is about a team, and we need to be cohesive, and we need to work as one. And now that I finally have that, I wouldn't have it any other way. And I think I've really, believe it or not, the more production I have, the more chill I am and less nervous and less, I don't have that need to have to be that front person as much.
Sure.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. So today the team looks like a transaction coordinator, basically an LOA.
Right. Who's going to be a LO next year.
Okay. And then, like, you're basically the rainmaker.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
What do you think is next?
Well, I would really, truly like to have at least two more. and they would be working with me in the South Tampa area.
Okay.
And in that office that I work mostly, not that that's my only office, believe me, I
Sure.
work in a lot of offices, but that South Tampa office that I'm in is really
Your core.
Well, they're my core, and not only that, but they're growing so much. Their goal is to have 500 agents in there by the end of 2022.
Okay.
So if they're going to have 500 agents, I need to be able to service
More
them.
Peggy's.
Right,
Yeah, we need
right.
a lot more Peggy.
So,
Yeah.
And Nicholas does a great job. Nick will take these people out. He does one-on-ones, which is kind of like when I started out the lunches.
Yep.
Nick takes these people out to Kawa. They have coffee, and his job is to take every single brand new agent in that office for coffee, and he's done a fantastic job.
Good.
And then another thing we do for the new agents is your producers. Every 3 months we do a taping or a videography. We video all the new agents and some older agents if I can get them, and we do what we call the Realtor of the Week interview.
Okay.
And we sit down and we interview agents, and I ask them 3 basic questions, and it's all about them. And then I put it on their social media, my business page, my personal page, the office page. And I try to get them as much exposure as I can. I'm not in the video, just in the very beginning, which I might cut that. I think my voice is probably all we really need. And really tailor it for the agent. And I would like very much to just continue doing that. And, that's one of the really nice things that we offer.
I think
I
that's
watched
just
several. Yeah, they're great.
And
Great.
it's just another way to try
Add
to
value.
find ways to add value to people you
I
want
want
to be
them
in
to do
business with.
well.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I find that almost every new agent does have a sphere of influence, and they will.
They better if they're getting into real estate.
Yeah, especially
for
in
sure.
Florida.
Yep.
But they do, and they almost all have at least one deal. And I would say 75% of the time, it's a purchase for a buyer
Yeah.
who needs financing.
Listen, I've said it all the time. I think, a lot of people want to stay away from new agents, and I can understand why. But I think the flip side, the good side of it is, to your point, most of them, their first transaction is going to be a friend or a family member, and it's going to be a buyer. And the reason it's going to be a buyer is they're afraid to go on a listing appointment. I don't blame them. I'm not knocking you. Like, they're afraid to go on a listing appointment. So their first couple of transactions are buyers. My feeling is as an LO, if you can get a deal from a new agent, if you can get their first deal, you're going to get deals 2, 3, 4, and 5.
100%.
But if you don't get deal 1, you're not going to get 2, 3, 4, and 5. Let me tell you why. The reason that you're not is because they're so new that they don't have the confidence to try something different. If everything went off, right, they're going to use the same title company. They're going to use the same homeowner's insurance. They're going to use the same home inspector. They're going to use the same loan officer.
Correct.
Until they get confidence enough, they might be willing to try something different. So to me, I know that, where a lot of people think it doesn't bear fruit as well, those agents don't do a lot of business. But if you can find a way to help them get into production, you're going to get a couple of deals from them.
Oh, I agree 100%. And I got to tell you, Brian, most of those agents, they're so grateful that they did come to us because, and there's no way to tell somebody how much we do for them and what the difference is working with us versus another lender. No, I'm not trying to knock people. I know there are a lot of great LOs out there.
Yes.
Yep.
A lot of great LOs that don't work with
Yep.
us.
Yep.
And I wish they would all work with us, but because I love that we have that great reputation. I love to have my peers, my counterparts that do great. I love hearing about that. But that being said, I think that going with us for your first deal, we create an experience that you're never going to forget. And you're going to want to keep repeating that over and over again. It's like that high, you want to get that same feeling over and over again. And we really, really, truly offer a beautiful lending experience. We talk to the customers. We tell them what to expect. There are no surprises. And I think that that's what sets us apart. And then these agents know. And then they tell others too. They not only do they tell the new agents, but they tell the other agents.
Yeah.
And they're the first ones to put you on their Facebook page, and they're the first ones to tell everyone, hey, call Peggy, call Nick. They did such a great job for me,
Yeah.
So,
Cool.
yeah.
Well, Pegs, is there anything else you wish we would have asked you?
I don't think so. I love my job. I love my customers. I don't know what else to say. I love what I do for a living. I feel like I'm the luckiest person in the world.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That is awesome.
Thanks.
That's awesome. John, anything else?
Great job.
All right, cool.
I love it. Message out there is stay in the friend zone.
Definitely.
I like that. I mean, that's your secret success. And I mean, I think it's a great strategy.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, obviously 30 plus million. Peggy, what are we thinking? 40, 45, 50 million in 2022?
Well, if I get the people I
Jot
want.
it down there for us.
I already have it, by the way.
He knows.
Well, listen, thanks for tuning in to another episode of the Context to Contracts podcast on behalf of Peggy Bradshaw and John Jones.
Good job, Peggy.
I'm Bryan
Thank
Lovell,
you.
and if there's anything that you ever need, we're always here to serve.